Some encounters feel like miracles, but in reality, they are the opening ritual of your unraveling. You meet someone, and in that moment your soul trembles as if it has recognized something sacred. You think, this is the person God sent to me. Everything at the beginning feels right, the eyes, the resonance, the way they make you feel seen, but slowly that light begins to change color. Care turns into control. Listening turns into cold silence. And love, the very thing that once opened your heart, becomes a prison you don't know how to escape. Your soul cries for help, yet it cannot detach, because you believe that if you love enough, give enough, endure enough, they will return to who they were at first. What you don't know is that their purpose was never to stay. It was to awaken you. God has a strange way of teaching. He doesn't only speak through beauty, he also whispers through wounds. Sometimes he allows a narcissist to enter an empath's life, not as punishment, but as a mirror reflecting the parts of yourself you have never truly seen, the boundaries you never dared to set, the no you never learned to say, the old belief that love only has value when you suffer for it. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That wrong person is the very instrument of destiny. They touch the unconscious within you and pull it toward the light. They do not come to destroy you, but to break the mask you once believed was your true self. When they leave, you think you have lost everything, but in truth, it is in that very moment of collapse that God begins his greatest work, the reconstruction of your soul. And only when you have melted into the ashes of your illusions can he reshape you into a soul that knows how to love without fear, to give without losing itself, to be alone yet remain whole. That is why meeting the wrong person is not a mistake. It is a sacred invitation to walk through the doorway of suffering and step into the journey where God breaks you apart before he brings you together. Part I, the shattering. When loving the wrong person breaks the self. When an empath loves, they do not love only with their heart. They love with their entire soul, with an instinct to see the good in others, with a belief that love strong enough can redeem anything. They don't just want to be loved, they want to heal. They see the wounds in the other person, and their heart designed to feel cannot turn away. They believe that if they are more patient, softer, more forgiving, then the other will change. And in that beautiful beginning, the tragedy is seeded. A narcissist often appears like a sweet stroke of destiny. They are attentive, perceptive, and they make you believe you are finally seen after so many lonely years. They look you in the eyes and say the very words you have longed to hear. "No one has ever understood me like you," or "You make me feel at peace." You believe it because an empath wants to believe in goodness. But that is the moment the trap is set, using your own need for love. Then, slowly, something shifts. Sweet messages fade. Care turns into surveillance. The eyes that once gazed at you tenderly now look at you like a problem. When you ask what's wrong, they smile with contempt. You're being too sensitive. When you hurt, it's your fault. When you go quiet, you're called cold. When you cry, they turn away. And each time this happens, the empath tries harder, believing that if they just love a little more, sacrifice a little more, the other person will finally see their sincerity. And slowly, love becomes a one-way race. You no longer sleep well because you're anxious about their distance. You reread old messages to see where you slipped. You smile when you don't want to. You stay silent when you should speak, just to maintain peace. Bit by bit, you disappear inside your own relationship. No more real laughter, no more identity, no more energy. Your body is present, but your soul is exhausted. A narcissist does not kill you with violence. They kill you with contradictions. One day they adore you, the next they are ice. They push your mind into a spiral of self-doubt. Am I too sensitive? Is it my fault? You start apologizing for things you didn't do, shaping yourself into the version they want, forgetting the version God created in the first place. This is the slow death of the ego, what Jung called ego death, a bloodless collapse that drains the soul drop by drop. But God sees what the human eye cannot. that loving the wrong person is not punishment, but exposure. To human eyes, breaking is failure. To God's eyes, breaking is initiation. Humans see loss, he sees liberation. Humans see betrayal, he sees awakening. Because without that collapse, the soul would never leave the illusions it has inhabited for far too long. He knows you will be hurt in loving this person, yet he allows it not because he is cruel, but because he knows no light is born in comfort. He lets the narcissist enter, not to destroy you, but to expose what was buried within, the fear of abandonment, the hunger for approval, the habit of tying your worth to someone else's gaze. These are the most delicate chains, and only through love and loss can you realize you were bound. God watches not with pity, but with the patient love of a potter. When you break, he does not rush to gather your pieces. He sits silently, waiting for the moment you whisper, "I cannot save anyone while I'm falling apart." He knows if he touches you too soon, you will run back again, chasing someone who cannot love you, again trying to mend a broken vessel with fantasy. So he lets you sit in the ruins, so that in the shards you can finally see yourself clearly. To God, pain is not an ending, it is an entryway into awareness. When everything outside collapses, you are forced to look within. And in that moment you touch a sacred stillness, one that only souls who have fallen into the abyss ever truly understand. You were never abandoned. You were being called home. He sees you cry but does not intervene, because the tears themselves are part of the baptism. He hears you beg, "Bring them back to me," but he stays silent because he knows if they returned you would never grow. He lets you be alone, not because you deserve loneliness, but because he wants to be the first one you run to, not anyone else. And when you finally kneel, not to beg for love, but simply to say, "I cannot do this alone," he smiles, because only when you surrender can he begin his work of redemption. For God, loving the wrong person is not an accident. It is a deliberate step in your spiritual evolution. The narcissist arrives as a reverse teacher, not to love you, but to wake you from the dream that you can save others. They are the test of compassion. Can you love without losing yourself? Can you be kind yet still have boundaries? Can you forgive and still walk away? Every yes pulls you closer to the version God imagined for you, strong, wise, and free. God does not see your pain as tragedy, but as a baptism of fire. That fire does not burn you, it burns away everything that is not you. Every illusion, every habit of self-betrayal, every fantasy of being someone's savior, everything melts so the true soul can emerge, like pure gold refined in flame. And when he sees you no longer clinging, no longer begging, no longer needing anyone to validate your worth, he whispers, "Now you are ready. Now you understand love the way I meant it, not as saving someone, but as living in your own truth." When you stay long enough in the dark, you realize the darkness was never your enemy. It did not swallow you, it held you still so you would stop running. With nothing left to prove and no roles left to perform, you are invited back to your essence, a soul learning to exist without an audience. Jung called this the withdrawal of projections, when you reclaim all the energy you once threw into the world, once placed in the narcissist, and call it back to yourself. You begin to become your own source. And in that isolation, the miracle happens. You begin to feel God's presence, not in church, not in loud prayers, but in quiet mornings when sunlight slips through the window, in the breath you manage after a long night, in the gratitude of simply being alive. You realize he never left you. He was clearing the space around you so he could dwell within it, within the silence, within every heartbeat. Part 2, the healing. When God touches the wounds humans cannot reach. There is a stage after leaving a narcissist that every empath fears, a stage empty yet full of ghosts. Your body has left, but your soul remains stuck. You no longer speak or meet, yet their energy lingers like a thin fog drifting through your mind. You hear their voice in dreams, you see their outline in a stranger's glance, and worst of all, you still react to them even when they're gone. Every memory clenches your heart as if the wound were freshly opened. This is the stage when God begins healing you by making you face what you once tried to forget. He does not erase memories with miracles, He shines the light of awareness into every hidden corner. He does not dry your tears. He lets you cry until you understand those tears are not weakness. They are purification. Every memory you confront without running loses its power, because it was never the past that hurt you, it was your refusal to look at it. Empaths often believe they were wounded because they loved the wrong person. But in truth, the wrong person only reveals the places within you that were never loved. The fear of abandonment did not begin with this relationship. It began in childhood, when you learned love had to be earned by pleasing others. The feeling of not being enough did not come from their insults, but from the inner voice shaped during years of trying to be seen. The narcissist simply pressed play on the tape you never dared to rewind. And God, through the pain, whispers, "Do not hate them. They are showing you the places you have never embraced yourself." God's healing is not gentle. It is as if He places you on the operating table of the soul, not to add more pain, but to remove the toxins embedded deep within. You may feel exhausted, lost, even tempted to go back, because at least the familiar pain was predictable. But He is patient. He does not drag you from the pit. He illuminates it, letting you find your own way up. Because only when you climb by your own strength does faith take root. And one day you wake up and realize what hurt you is no longer that person, but the way you abandoned yourself. You ache because you begged for love, like a wanderer begging for water in the desert, while God waited inside you, holding a well that never runs dry. His love does not replace anyone, it restores you. It returns you to the innocence of your soul before the world taught you to fear. God teaches you that forgiveness is not erasing someone's wrongdoing, it is releasing your soul's energy from them. Forgiveness is not reconciliation, it is reclaiming your freedom. When you no longer need an apology, no longer crave acknowledgement, you begin to feel lighter, not because you forgot, but because you finally see clearly. True forgiveness is when you can revisit everything and no longer tremble. And that is when God pours a different kind of love into you, a love without condition, without direction outward, rising from within. It is quiet, steady, like a small flame burning in your chest, helping you fall in love again with simple things. Morning warmth, the smell of fresh coffee, a child's laughter on the street. You begin to see God not just in churches, but in every breath, every breeze, every ordinary moment. For He never took love away from you. He simply redirected it from others back to you. Jung once said, "Healing comes only from that which leads the soul back to its origin." And that is what God is doing. He is not restoring you to who you used to be, because who you used to be was shaped by fear. He is guiding you back to your original design, where the soul knew how to love without losing itself, how to give without running empty. Your scars are no longer symbols of damage. They are God's signature on your soul, proof that you walked through fire and were not consumed. Every tear that fell was holy oil, washing away inner darkness. And when you fall silent, you feel what only shattered souls understand. God did not break you to punish you. He broke you to remake you, to heal what humanity could not, and to make your heart clear enough to reflect His light once more. Part 3. The alignment. When God leads you back to your soul's purpose, after the pain has slowly settled, a different kind of stillness begins to appear, not the heavy silence of loneliness, but a peaceful quiet with direction. You no longer ask, "Why did this happen to me?" but begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That is when God starts recalibrating the frequency of your soul, helping you remember the deeper reason why you are here in this world. Because every empath is born not only to love, but also to heal, to guide, and to spread light in the world. Yet that light only becomes truly pure when it has been refined through darkness. In this phase, you clearly feel that you are no longer looking for someone to complete you. You are seeking to complete the mission your soul was given. The things that once hurt you now become the raw material of wisdom. You begin to use your experiences to help others stand up from the very places where you once collapsed. Old wounds now serve as a compass. Where you once bled, that is where you now shine. Jung once said, The wound is the place where the light enters you. And now, that light does not only illuminate you, it lights the way for others. God never wastes suffering. He turns it into the substance of service. When you begin to act for something larger than yourself, even if only through one honest sharing, one kind gesture, or one decision to live in alignment with your soul's values, you are stepping into the phase of alignment, the phase where your will unites with God's will. You are no longer dragged around by old emotions and cravings. Instead, you move with clarity. Every choice, every direction is guided by a sense of rightness, the feeling Jung called the instinct of the self, the instinct of the awakened soul. You also begin to notice that new relationships, new opportunities, only hold power if they resonate with your true values. Everything that is no longer aligned will quietly fall away. No conflict, no struggle. Letting go is no longer a loss, but the natural action of energy being purified. You no longer try to hold on to those who make you smaller, because now you know what is real will never require force. The rising of the empath at this stage is not loud. It is like the sun rising after a long night, not rushed, not announced, it simply shines. You begin to live with a deep presence, not needing to be noticed, yet anyone who comes near you can feel a quiet strength. That is the sign of harmony between you and the divine. When your soul has come into balance between love and wisdom, between emotion and boundaries, God begins to carry you into the synchronized flow of destiny. You realize that love is not the final destination, it is the natural result of spiritual alignment. When you live in your purpose, true love will find its way to you, the way a river finds the ocean. You no longer ask, when will that person arrive? But gently whisper, when I am truly myself, everything right for me will appear on its own. And just like that, in the calm breath of the present moment, you begin to sense the energy of something approaching softly, quietly, yet unmistakably. Another soul who has also walked through their own darkness is being guided by God toward you, not to complete you, but to stand beside you in service of the light. Part I, the divine synchronicity. When God orchestrates a meeting with the frequency of light, and then one day when you are no longer searching, when your heart has returned to stillness, something extraordinary happens. There is no sign, no overwhelming intuition, no lightning strike romance. Just an ordinary moment, a glance, a conversation, a coincidence that arrives so perfectly timed it makes you smile to yourself. You don't know that it is destiny, but your soul does. This is divine synchronicity, a place where God arranges a meeting not by spectacle, but by frequency alignment. Unlike your past relationships, this encounter does not begin with an emotional high. It comes as gently as a breath, as naturally as sunrise. Your heart does not race. Instead, you feel peace spreading through you. There is no fear of losing, no craving to possess. This person does not make you addicted. They make you calm. Between two souls refined by their own darkness, there is no need for theatrical passion, only presence. God arranges this meeting not so you can reclaim what was lost, but so you can recognize what you have become. Because the one sent to you now is not here to teach you another painful lesson, but to walk with you into the phase of practicing love, a mature love with boundaries, with awareness, with roots in inner peace. This is no longer the love of two souls searching for each other from a place of lack. It is the union of two souls who have already found themselves. You will see that every detour that once made you cry was part of the sacred map leading to this moment. The one you loved, the one who hurt you, every separation, every lonely night, all of it was arranged with precision, like notes that seemed offbeat, but, when put together, form a perfect melody. Jung called this synchronicity a meaningful coincidence, where events are not random but become the language of the universe. You cannot logically explain why this person arrived at this exact time, why everything fits so well. But deep down, you feel, this is home. Not because this person is perfect, but because the energy between you is healed. When two souls have walked through their own darkness, they do not come together to possess each other, but to reflect each other's light. They do not need promises, because presence itself is the commitment. In this connection, you no longer speak mainly about wounds, but about dreams. You are no longer endlessly analyzing the past, but co-creating the future. This bond does not burn you out. It nourishes you. It does not erase who you are. It makes you more clearly yourself. Because when love comes from God, it does not make you smaller. It expands you. Jung once wrote, "When two personalities meet, an invisible third is born, a relationship itself." And it is this very third being that becomes the proof of harmony between two souls shaped by God, molded through suffering, refined over time, and led to the exact crossing point of light. When this happens, you understand that God is never late. Every waiting, every loss, every desperate prayer, he heard them all. But he was never in a hurry, because he did not just want you to have love. He wanted you to become love. And once that became true, he sent someone not to complete you, but to stand with you in service of something holier than both of you. That is when you realize this meeting is not just a reward, it is an affirmation that your journey breaking, isolation, healing, and rising was never meaningless. Every pain was a piece of God's sacred map. And now, as you hold this person's hand, you do not say, "Finally, I found love," but quietly acknowledge, "Finally, I have become someone who can love in the right way." Part V, the divine union. When love becomes a ritual of the soul, when two souls refined by God through darkness finally find each other, the love between them is no longer just an emotion, it becomes a living ritual. A silent form of worship where two hearts become an altar for the light. No more power games, no more desire to possess, no more fear of losing. Instead, there is full presence, the sense that you are standing inside something so sacred it needs no name. This is not the worldly idea of right person, right time. This is the meeting of two awakened frequencies, two lamps that survived their long, lonely nights and now shine together in a shared flame. The empath, who once loved through sacrifice, who confused compassion with obligation, now loves through peace. They no longer try to heal anyone, for they understand that every soul has its own journey. They no longer need to prove their goodness, because their goodness is now as natural as breath. This love requires no chasing, no clinging, no striving. It stands firm through awareness and honesty. This is the kind of love Jung described as a connection between two beings who have made peace with their own darkness. In this sacred love, each person is a complete universe, and when they meet, they do not dissolve, they expand. The other is not a place to hide, but a mirror reflecting your highest self. When you look at them, you do not see the fear of abandonment. You see a reminder. This is the light you once forgot in yourself. This connection does not pull you away from God, it draws you closer, because every touch, every word, every quiet moment together becomes an unspoken prayer. God does not unite two people merely so they can be happy. He unites them so they can serve together. True love does not end with personal emotion, it radiates outward, healing families, communities, and other souls. The two become channels for divine energy. Where love is no longer possession, it becomes a miracle that spreads. They can sit in silence for hours and still feel connected. They can be apart without ever losing each other because their bond exists beyond space and time. In this union, you no longer feel loved, you are love. You no longer fear losing because there is nothing left to lose. You no longer beg because everything you once sought now lives within you. This is the stage Jung called individuation, fulfill the soul's completion, where ego and spirit are no longer separate. God not only brings two people together, he merges them in a higher plane of awareness where the two are no longer you and me, but two streams of energy serving one divine purpose. When you touch this person, you do not feel a storm. You feel a warm current of light spreading through your chest, not excitement, but home, not fireworks, but depth, not temporary attraction, but eternal stillness. This is a love that does not need a name, because it does not belong to language. It is the meeting of two souls who have recognized God in each other. And that is when you finally understand. God breaks you apart before he brings you together. It's not just about meeting another person. It is about meeting yourself. Only when you have returned to wholeness can God send you a soul equally whole, someone capable of sharing the light with you. They are not your missing half. They are a complete being standing beside your completeness. And together, you create a new reality where love is no longer a destination, but a way of living. In the end, you realize God never sends the wrong person to hurt you. He sends them to help you see yourself. Love is neither a reward nor a punishment. It is the language God uses to speak to the soul, sometimes through sweetness, sometimes through shattering. For it is only through the cracks that light can enter. What you thought was loss was in truth a release. He removes what no longer aligns with you, not to empty you, but to make space for what is sacred. And in the moment, you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" You hear a quiet voice inside. "Because I want you to know that you are already enough. You do not need anyone to complete you, for you were created from light." Rebirth does not arrive in a sunny morning. It arrives in the nights when you sit alone and choose to believe. To believe that the pain has purpose. To believe that peace will return. To believe that an unseen force is rewriting your story not through tragedy, but through intention. And then, when you no longer look for someone to fill the emptiness, when you stop chasing what is left, you feel an unfamiliar peace, not because everything is as it once was, but because you no longer need it to be. In that moment, your soul stands upright in the ashes, quiet, radiant. You understand? God did not lead you through the pain so you would collapse, but so you would rise. He breaks you not to weaken you, but to make you real. He takes away what is unstable so you can rebuild on the foundation of faith. He allows your heart to break, not to punish you, but to teach you to love with light instead of fear. And when you walk forward after it all, no longer as the wounded one, but as the reborn one, you realize the true miracle is not that God brings the right person into your life. It is that he transforms you into the right person. A person who can love without losing themselves, give without running empty, and stand firmly in his peace. That is the salvation God prepared for you from the beginning, not through desperate prayers, but through the journey of breaking, healing, and returning. Because sometimes to teach the soul how to fly, God must first allow the wings to break. And in that very breaking, you learn how to rise through faith. And when you rise, you do not just find love, you become love itself.